In the labyrinthine, convoluted corridors of Hornistworks Inc., a corporate behemoth known for its ruthless drive to maximize profits at the cost of employee morale and concealed shady deals, behind its polished image crafted through heavily financed PR efforts, dwelled an unusual character having a strange and mystical name. Arendor Tavian, the company Terminator. A man whose self-perceived omnipotence was only rivaled by his uncanny ability to annihilate staff with reckless abandon. Arendor was an embodiment of hubris cloaked in a veneer of managerial bravado. Arendor's modus operandi was simple yet profoundly absurd. He wielded the axe of arbitrary termination with reckless abandon, often without the slightest preamble or discernible cause. His philosophy was rooted in the conviction that inefficiency, to make profit for the company by any means, every nanosecond, even while sleeping in washroom use, was a malignant parasite. And his method of eradication was akin to an errant, enraged bull in a china shop. Chaotic, destructive, and utterly devoid of finesse. Arendor's moniker, the Company Terminator, was not bestowed lightly. It was a moniker he had self-bestowed after a particularly egregious episode involving the abrupt dismissal of a very senior accountant for not being assertive enough, a phrase that Arendor himself often misinterpreted as not asserting enough. This incident became folklore within the office, an anecdotal testament to Arendor's capriciousness. He prided himself on his haphazard but decisive approach to management, often bragging in meetings, "Why deliberate when you can terminate?" I am the harbinger of progress, an unstoppable, unrelenting terminator of inefficiency. In response to this mockery, the entire team, driven by fear and intimidation, must loudly proclaim, "Make more and more profit!" Otherwise, they face the threat of immediate expulsion, much like a compressed gas valve being released suddenly. In this chaotic tableau was Lady Sorrel Callis, the company's elegantly cunning lady manager. Her title, Lady, was a misnomer, as she wielded her pathological influence with a sly grin, a razor-sharp venomous wit. Its language can be as biting as a serpent's hiss. She was notoriously famous for her chili-infused tongue, wielding words like a finely honed blade. Her role was ostensibly to streamline operations, but her true talent lay in her ability to manipulate Arendor's impulsive employee layoff tendencies for her own amusement. Perhaps she wanted to excel him in future by obtaining a PhD in the employee axing tactics and invent novel path-breaking methods through meticulous research using cutting-edge statistical methods. And indeed, it seems she is already on that promising path toward achieving her aspirations. Sorale's specialty was in crafting elaborate ruses to subvert Arendor's haphazard purges, often turning his terminations into farcical spectacles. She was a connoisseur of corporate subtlety, armed with a Rolodex of euphemisms and a penchant for mischief. One fateful Tuesday, Arendor decided to cleanse the marketing department of dead weight. Without so much as a cursory review, he summoned the department head, Mr. Kryspin, to his office. Upon entry, Arendor declared, "Crispin, your services are no longer required. Pack your boxes and vacate the premises." The giving the pink slip proclamation was followed by his customary loud laughter, which sounded like a lion's roar. Crispin, a seasoned veteran whose only crime was a slightly over-enthusiastic enthusiasm for pie charts, was flabbergasted. "Sir, may I inquire?" But Arendor was already preoccupied with an impending imminent arrival of a clandestine guest making a grand, if unwelcome, entrance, an audacious reminder that even the most refined airs can be swiftly upended by nature's unyielding sense of timing, which is a difficult thing to control for any human. "No time for questions. The Terminator has spoken," he shouted at him with waving a dismissive hand. Needless to say, Arendor's congestion was relieved. Luckily, the air pollution was minimal. The other staff in the room didn't notice it, and its audio got muffled in his thunderous laughter. Sorrel, observing the whole show from the sidelines with a devilish smirk, saw her opportunity for mischief. She approached Arendor and whispered conspiratorially, "Sir, perhaps we should give Mr. Crispin a more dignified exit. Maybe a farewell party?" Arendor, ever eager for spectacle, nodded enthusiastically. "Excellent idea, lady. Let's make it memorable." What ensued was a spectacle of hilarity. Arendor ordered a marching band to lead Crispin out of the building, played a dirge, of course, and arranged for a cake inscribed with "Good riddance, Crispin." The entire office watched, bemused and bewildered, as Crispin was ceremoniously escorted to the door amid confetti and awkward applause. Arendor's reputation as a ruthless, indiscriminate Terminator grew exponentially. Employees began to refer to his office as the Hall of Fame, where the plaques read, "Here lies the career of Mr. Smythe, terminated for excessive punctuality," and "Miss May, eliminated for laughing at Arendor's jokes." Sorrel, meanwhile, was busy orchestrating a series of clandestine operations to undermine Arendor's authority, mainly by replacing his motivational posters with satirical quotations. One such poster read, "Fired? Perfect! Now you are free to pursue your true passion, avoiding adulting." Arendor Tavian, probably confused.
Arendor's penchant for capricious dismissals reached a crescendo when he announced the Haphazard Termination Campaign, a new corporate initiative designed to eliminate inefficiency with reckless abandon. The staff was instructed to identify and eliminate at will with no guidelines or criteria. Sorrel, sensing an opportunity, distributed a memo to all employees. "In light of Arendor's visionary campaign, please submit names of those who require special attention, preferably by Friday." The memo, of course, was a veiled parody, and many employees responded with humorous nominations. One employee suggested the coffee machine, another proposed the HR department, just to see what happens. Arendor, oblivious to the sarcasm, took the memo as a mandate.
As the chaos escalated, Sorrel devised her piece de resistance. She secretly replaced Arendor's Terminator badge with a wand that emitted squeaky sounds. During the annual company picnic, Arendor, in his typical bravado, strutted around wielding his wand, declaring, "I am the unstoppable Terminator! Watch out, inefficiency! Your end is nigh!"
Suddenly, a rogue employee pressed a button on Arendor's belt, activating the squeaky toy wand.
Arendor, startled, jumped back, squeaking uncontrollably, much to the amusement of everyone.
In the midst of his squeaky tirade, Sorel slipped a note into his pocket. "Your reign of terror ends here, Mr. Annihilator." Arendor, realizing he'd been the butt of a corporate prank, looked utterly befuddled.
From that day forward, Arendor's terminations became infrequent, and he was often seen wandering the halls, muttering to himself about redundant redundancies. Sorel, meanwhile, continued to orchestrate subtle mischiefs, replacing his coffee with decaffeinated, switching his chair with a wobbling one, and occasionally printing memos with humorous typos. Eventually, Arendor was persuaded to take a sabbatical, though he insisted it was a strategic retreat. Sorale, ever the master of mischief, was promoted to CEO, replacing Arendor, where she devised new ways to keep the corporate atmosphere lively and unpredictable. It was an absolute carnival, a riotous spectacle that drew a veritable circus crowd, where Sorel, the reigning monarch of mayhem, defended her audacious thesis on corporate fun-filled employee termination, a groundbreaking masterpiece that probably had no precedent in the annals of corporate absurdity. Channeling Arendor's eccentric legacy, she began commanding the stage at the grand termination galas, sinking into her throne-like chair with the flair of a warlord about to deliver a coup de grace. Leaning forward with a devilish grin, clad in her signature black Dracula apron, she addressed the employee to be axed with a theatricality that would make Shakespeare jealous, calling them out by their full, pompous name as if they were a complete stranger. She was in her element, glorious, unrepentant, and thoroughly enjoying every absurd second of her self-created chaos. She looked as if she were sitting atop a monstrous saddle, like a fearless cowgirl or warlord, leaning forward with the intensity of a battle-hardened general, with her bottom stretched back in defiance on the cushioned seat of her huge throne. The only thing missing was a gleaming sword, an actual weapon of destruction, or perhaps an employee prostrating on the floor, desperately groveling and begging for mercy, like a battered soldier on a medieval battlefield. Maybe she secretly believed herself to be a ruthless queen, ruling her corporate empire, leading her army to victory, swinging her metaphorical sword with theatrical bravado, chopping down her opponents with a devilish grin. This wasn't just a termination, it was an epic, rip-roaring, no-holds-barred spectacle of corporate combat, a hilarious, over-the-top satire that she savored like a fine vintage. Laughter, chaos, and a dash of ruthless dominance, all rolled into one glorious, uproarious spectacle. Rumor had it that Hornist Works Inc. operated under an idiosyncratic paradigm of efficiency, a cultural phenomenon that magnetized a peculiar cohort of job seekers, individuals who gamely embrace the corporate carnival with gusto. These hardy souls partook in a daily ritual, an uproarious laughter fiesta, where they cheerfully called out to the office, verifying if their throne, aka their chair, was still unclaimed before embarking on their daily odyssey. Many harbored clandestine aspirations for greener pastures elsewhere, often juggling ancillary endeavors with the mainstay of their employment, side ventures, side hustles, and clandestine pursuits. Yet, amidst the chaos and theatrical office melodrama, they maintained a jocular detachment, viewing the entire tableau as a comical farce, a veritable satire of corporate life that elicited more chuckles than consternation. However, thus far, only 1 or 2 employees, unacquainted with the peculiar nuances of Hornisworks Inc.'s corporate humor, found themselves unexpectedly turfed off the premises. Their misunderstanding of the company's idiosyncratic wit precipitated a clandestine altercation behind closed doors, which left the skin cover of Sorrel's bucinator and masseter muscles of her cheeks flushing a vivid crimson, as if the very skin had been infused with a fiery hue by the confrontation's intensity. Thanks to the steroid-muscled security, whose prowess was such that they expelled the unruly employees with the efficiency of swiftly jettisoning laundry bags, Sorrel now takes no chances. As an extra precautionary measure, she ensures that a formidable phalanx of security personnel flanks her during the ceremonial termination events, transforming what was once a simple procedure into an orchestrated display of martial rigor and strategic safeguarding. The guard's primary function? To exude an aura of formidable authority while ensuring no real threat dares approach her regal presence, an impeccable display of theatrical security laced with an abundance of pomp and circumspect bravado. After all, she's the queen, isn't she? And so, Hornisworks Inc. thrived, not because of Arendor's or Sorrel's Terminator tactics, but thanks to the chaos and comedy cultivated by the staff's humor, proving that sometimes corporate humor is the best remedy for the most absurd management practices. In the realm of corporate chaos, a dash of mischief and a heaping teaspoon of humor can turn even the most tyrannical Terminator into a legend, preferably one who's forever squeaking. Why did the Terminator go to therapy? Because he had a lot of sentimental processes to terminate.